Hey everybody. So probably the hardest part about getting started as a consultant is getting your very first client. And this gets asked of me often. And so today I want to give two options for getting your first client. Now, both of these options involve using your current professional network, and they assume that you already work in your chosen field. If that's not the case for you, I will make another video about how to get your first client if you're not already working in the field. But let's talk about these two options. Now, both of these options involve somebody going to bat for you. So if you haven't watched one of my prior videos, I really harp on the importance of maintaining good relationships. And so it's often the case that we need someone else within an organization to advocate for us. So as always, bear that in mind, that someone else is going to need to go to bat for you. And so try to take good care of your professional relationships. Now, the first option is not for everybody, but it is definitely the shortest path. And so I want to give you a word of caution. I'll tell you more in a second, but this is not for everybody. And that option is to transition your current job from a full-time job to a contract job. How does that work? Well, what you would do is you would approach your current supervisor, your current boss, and let them know that you are looking for more flexibility. Now, you may have had some change in your life circumstances that has caused you to be thinking about consulting. And so that would dovetail naturally. Maybe you've had a child, maybe you've gotten married, maybe you've split up, maybe you've had to move. Whatever it is, you could be dealing with some personal behavioral issues. I've had friends and colleagues that need to, kind of create some distance between themselves and their workplace. Maybe they need to work at home for a while. But whatever it is, your circumstances, you want to communicate to your supervisor that you are looking for more flexibility. And they might ask, well, what do you mean flexibility? And so you would describe what kind of working relationship you want. And that might mean, well, I need to be able to work different hours, more flexibility. Some weeks I might only work 20 hours, and some weeks I might work 40. And so that might naturally lead to a conversation about a contracting relationship. Now, if you cannot predict what your boss's response to this is going to be, I recommend that you don't try it. I don't want you to put your current full-time employment at risk because because of the kind of grass is greener allure of consulting. You should not risk your current job until you have something else. And so if you have a very good relationship with your supervisor and you believe you have a good idea how they're going to respond, if they're going to respond favorably to this, they're going to be open-minded, they're not going to overreact, then this may be an option for you. But I've experienced it and I've seen it where an organization or a supervisor just is not open to this. So they may not, for whatever reason, they may not be open-minded about contractors. So for example, if the company doesn't have any other contractors at all, if everybody is full-time, then this may be a no-go. Some businesses and some bosses, they have a kind of an attitude of you're either with me or you're against me. And so if that's their attitude, again, they may see this as kind of a negative thing. And the worst case is you could get let go. That's a real possibility. And that's why I don't recommend this conversation for everybody. Only do this if you are confident that you can predict that you will get a favorable response, or at least an open-minded response, and you have a really good relationship with your supervisor. Then you need to game it out. So assume you are going to ask your supervisor about this. You're going to ask for more flexibility. You're going to try and push the conversation towards contracting, then you need to think about, okay, what's going to be the yes, what's going to be the no, how am I going to respond to that? If they say yes, the conversation is going to very quickly transition to kind of a sales mode. Very quickly, your boss is going to ask, okay, well, what kind of rate are you looking for? How much do you want to get paid? What's going to be your contribution? What's the level of your contribution? So you need to be ready. Put yourself in your boss's shoes and think about what they are going to think is, reasonable. So the first thing is you are not going to get twice the pay for half the work. That's not reasonable. So don't plan to ask for double pay. They are probably just going to, figure out, okay, well, if we were to pay, if we're paying you $40,000 a year now, that would, work out to be about $20 an hour if you divide that by 2,000 hours. So can we pay you $20 an hour? And then just, you report your hours. It's going to be something like that. And you need to be ready to assure them that you're still there, that your teammates can still rely on you, that you're still going to get the work done. You're not looking to shirk off responsibility. You're not looking to do less work. You just need flexibility. And so just be ready to really assure them, hey, I know this is going to be a little bit disruptive, but I will do everything in my power to still deliver what my teammates need from me. This is not about me trying to get away from work. I love the work. I want to do the work. I just need a little bit more flexibility. If they say no, if they ultimately say no, then you just need to be prepared to be understanding. For whatever reason, they may not want to transition you. They may not want to go to bat for you with their supervisors. So you don't want to leave it in a awkward situation. You don't want them feeling like, oh, he's going to quit any day now. We might as well cut him loose. So be understanding. You're like, I understand. I know that, for whatever reasons that they have, I know that this company doesn't normally work with contractors. I know that this would create a headache in terms of, HR and compensation and doing invoicing and all that and payments. So for whatever reason, just be understanding of that. But you can leave the door open. So be understanding and then say, well, if anything changes on that front, let me know. I'm still here. I'm still doing my best. I'm not going to quit. I just wanted to have this conversation with you in case it was an option. So that way you're understanding, you're leaving the door open, but you're not giving an ultimatum and you're not quitting, and they don't need to let you go. So like I said, only do that option if you're pretty confident that you can predict the result. That is the shortest path from having a job to moving to something that is contract-based instead of full-time. The second option involves reaching out to your colleagues that are no longer at the same company, so your former colleagues. One of the best things that can happen to you from a networking perspective is when your best work friends leave. I know that sounds counterintuitive. We're all sad when our best work friends leave, but that is when our network expands. So it just happens in the course of the months and years of working somewhere. Your office mate, your cube mate, somebody down the hall is going to be laid off, is going to resign, is going to get a better job somewhere else. It is up to you to go to that person and say, hey, I really enjoyed working with you. Let's keep in touch, all that. Because, as I've said before, you never know where your next opportunity will come from. And that could be the best thing that ever happens to you, is for somebody that knows you and trusts you to go work somewhere else. So how does this work? In practice, when you are thinking about making a transition to consulting, reach out to your former colleagues, as many of them as you can, and especially the ones that really know you and worked with you and trusted you and have a good impression of you. and buy them lunch. Ask them to have lunch, buy their lunch if they will let you, and just ask them, hey, what's going on? I want to hear about your new, what you're up to now. Tell me about your new role. Tell me about your new responsibilities, your new company. I'm just, very curious, and I want to hear how you are doing. How's it going? Is this a good move? Is it better for you? Keep it casual. You do not want to turn this into a high pressure sales lunch, because that will sort of put the relationship, from a friend relationship to kind of like a buyer seller relationship. So avoid asking for them to get you a job. Avoid asking, hey, is there any opportunity for me to contract for your company? If you ask them, how are things going? What are you up to? Eventually, they will ask you. Eventually, if they have decent social skills, they will ask you, well, what are you doing? What are you up to? And then that's your opportunity. You'll just say, well, I'm looking to make a transition to consulting or contracting. I'd like to be more independent. I'd like to have more control over my schedule, whatever it is. And then they may ask you, why are you doing that? Oh, what kind of stuff are you looking for? Leave it up to them to connect the dots. You don't need to try to connect the dots for them. They will naturally think, oh, this is, my friend. I wonder if there's some consulting opportunity at my company. They will naturally think about that. If they have a good impression of you, then they will think about it. Again, resist the temptation to make like kind of a hard sell. Resist the temptation to say, hey, let me know if there's any contracting at your job. Use your judgment here, depending on your relationship. But, just leave it up to them. Of course, if you feel like it's not going to, change the tone of the relationship, you can say, does your company, do they work with contractors, or is everybody full-time? And then you can just see what they say. But again, I would advocate keeping it casual. Have a lot of these lunches. You never know where your next opportunity will come from, and with any luck, one of these lunches will lead to a conversation that could lead to your next contracting job or your first contracting job. So those are two options: using your current professional network for getting your first contracting job. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Did you ever get a contracting job this way? Maybe you had a good experience, maybe you had a bad experience. Let us know in the comments. That way other people can learn from your experience.